Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Juri Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai.
Jai Jai Shri Giriraj Ju Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Ju Ki Jai. Shri Changmai Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad. Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Bhaga Ki Jai. Shri Shri Nitai Chaitanya Dev Ki Jai. Shri Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura-prem. Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur Tirobal Mahamahosavatiti. Jai Srila Gadadhar Pandit Tirobal Mahamahosavatiti. Jai. He says he cannot hear me. Hare Krishna. All right, Mars, we're working on it, and soon you'll be hearing from us.
Can we hear Goswami Maharaj?
Not yet.
I cannot hear.
Yeah. Send a message to him saying, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Okay, Goswami.
Now you can hear. I see the...
Joined us by sound as well, Maharaj. Very good.
Yes.
By sight and by sound.
The
yeah.
Vedanta Sutra says, Anavriti Shabdat, Anavriti Shabdat. By sound you'll become liberated. So there's the generic aspect of that. And as also, and Guru Maharaj is saying, and the Kali-yuga, sound will deliver everything. It means a reference to nam-sankirtan. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila. Nam, Krishna Nam. But sometimes Krishna Nam means, Guru Maharaj is saying, sound. You think? So he's saying by sound you'll get, what does it say? Nam-sankirtan, Kalo, Parama, Upai. In the Kali-yuga, you'll get everything from nam-sankirtan. You know, the 18,000 verse Srimad Bhagavatam. First verse, very important, of course, but you can understand the last verse is also must be important. Srila Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj like to sing that. Nama-sankirtanam yasya sarva papa pranashanam pranamo dukkha-samanas tannamami harim puram. Same thing. So after all of that, to conclude with the importance of nam-sankirtan. So, and the 5 angas, again, sadhu sangha, nam-sankirtan, Vaishnava sevan, murti pratishta, mathur-bas. So, saying you'll get everything through sound culture. But Guru Maharaj says to reach that stage, you have to practice Mahaprabhu's teaching, which are given in Sikshastakam, because it begins singing the glories of nam-sankirtan. Cheto darpanam marjanam bhava maha davagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavaru jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipatam punamritas vadanam sarvatma snapanam puram vijayate Sri Krishna sankirtanam. Then nam namakari bahudha nivja sarva shaktis tatrapitak niyamatak smarane nakala etadrishi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi durdeva midrashamiha jani nanaraga. So after all this wonderful glorification of Sri Krishna Sankirtan, but in the second verse saying, and Krishna, you're so merciful, you have unlimited names, Krishna, Govinda, we sing Hari Harai Nama Krishna, you know. Yadavaya, Madhavaya, Kesavaya, Gopal, Govindaram, Sri Madhusudan, Giridhari, Gopinath, Madan Mohan, saying, and each one of these names can deliver everything. But then he says, but Durdeva Midrashamihan Ahajani Nanuraga. Here we see the word Durdeva, which sometimes appears from Srimati Radharani herself, and it can mean misfortune. Sometimes Srila Guru Maharaj says it means my bad luck. It's another way of saying misfortune and bad luck. Durdeva Midrashamihanjani na anurag. So all of this is true. You'll get everything through sound culture. Sri Krishna, nam-sankirtan. He said, the difficulty is na anurag. I have no attraction for this. Rupa Goswami saying in the Upadeshamritam, why? Saying that Krishna Nam is so sweet, but we're not tasting it as sweet. And he's saying like the tongue afflicted by jaundice, anything sweet, it tastes bitter and like poison practically. I had jaundice once, and I didn't know it, and was with a devotee at the Mohan Singh market to get some fruit juice. So we both had, and I tasted I said, ooh, I said, I think they must have spilled some chemicals in here or something. And he could see already it was acting strange of late. And before, he said, let me try it. And he said, oh, it's so sweet. And he said, let me see your eyes. Your eyes, and they're all yellow. And he said, you have jaundice. So the sweet orange juice tastes to you like poison. Means anything sweet. You're unable to not only detect its sweetness, like in a neutral sense, it tastes horrible to you, repulsive. So he's saying that, Durdeva Midrashamihaja na anurag. So how to overcome that? It's given in the third verse. Trinadapi sunichena tororapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So he's saying, to reach that plane where you'll get everything through sound culture, he said, you may have to cross mountains and oceans. So Gurudev liked to quote this one verse. What is it? Ahankar nivrittanam keshavo nahi duraga rishaya parvataya. Where he says, like Bhaktivinod Thakur will hear, he says, Hari das Hari nahi pai. Vinod bole hai Hari das Hari nahi pai. Vinod says, hi, what? I'm Krishna Kinkar, I'm Haridas. That is my, Jive Swarupai Nitya Krishna Das. I'm eternally the servant of Krishna. No Krishna to be found. What is it? How is this possible? I have this eternal, intimate relation with Krishna, and I can't find Krishna anywhere. So that verse, Gurudev liked to quote, Ahankar nivrittanam keshava nahi duraga, says, Ahankara parvataya, parvat rishaya, saying, what is separating us from our nearest and dearest, Krishna? Ahankar parvat, a mountain of ego. That's what it is. But there's hope. So here in the Bhagavatam, Samasrita ye parapalava pavam mahatpadam punir yasho marare bhavam budhir vatsa parampadam yad vipadam natesham. Saying, so this insurmountable ocean of nescience, we drowning, ai nanda tanuja kinkara patitam mam vishame bhavam budho. That's the ocean. Insurmountable ocean of nescience, who's actually Krishna Kinkar, servant of Krishna, forgetful of all of that. And what does the Bhagavatam say? But if you take shelter of Krishna, and what does that mean really? It means through his devotee. Krishna is surrounded by his devotees. Take shelter of Krishna means asraya loya bhaje tare Krishna nahi tati, to the devotee of Krishna. So there it says, what happens to the insurmountable ocean of nescience? It said, Vatsa padam. Vatsa means a calf. That ocean becomes reduced to the amount of water that you can find in the hoof print of a calf. Not even a cow. That would be bigger. A calf. So I mean, very small. So then we think, well, that's interesting poetry. But what is it telling us? So it's telling us there's a change of perspective, perception. What is insurmountable? How does an ocean become a drop? Right? We're talking about the Upanayan, getting the new angle of vision, the new way of seeing, right? That we achieve situated at the lotus feet of Sri Guru. So we're continuing, Maharaj, we shall continue the parikrama this evening with particularly, I think, Gadadhar Pandit, Tota Gopinath. You can say something about that, then I'll say something. And
so, yes, Maharaj, by your wish, Maharaj. So, starting from our temple, then it's very near. We come out of our temple gate, we turn left, we walk up to the end of the road, again turn left, and just a short way up, then we are going a little bit uphill. We're actually going to Chatak Parvat, which is the sand dune, but it's the hill representation, the Gupta Govardhan, the hill representation of Govardhan Hill. And then on our right-hand side, as we perhaps mentioned a couple of days ago, we passed by the Bhajan Kutir and the temple, the Purushottam Gaudiya Mat, established by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his famous Bhajan Kutir there. And then up the hill a little bit, and then we go along, and then on the left side, actually going down, we go down steps into the temple of Tota Gopinath. And this temple, when we arrive there, then we can also understand that this is very old temple. This is the gateway. Look, this is looking downhill, actually, even though it looks a little level, looking downhill to the temple. It's a very old temple, and Mahaprabhu would, again, one of these places, Mahaprabhu would come here regularly. He would hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit took kshetra-sannyas, and this is the place where he stayed throughout the rest of his manifest pastimes after Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas. When Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas, then he followed Mahaprabhu and came to Puri, and in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he took sannyas, and he took kshetra-sannyas so that he would always be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Gadadhar Pandit had been with Mahaprabhu, in fact, all along, because he was at school with Mahaprabhu. So in Navadip Dham, then he was a contemporary, as it were, in Leela with Gauranga Sundar, and he is one of those residents of Navadip Dham who saw wonderful Nimai Sundar, beautiful Nimai, so erudite, so bright in all his qualities, every quality, but in the earlier time in Navadip, he was not a devotee. So Gadadhar was one of those in Navadip who sort of lamented that this Nimai Sundar, every good quality, but not a devotee. And then when Mahaprabhu came back from doing the Pinda for his father, Gauranga Sundar came back after doing Pinda when he'd met Ishvarapuri, and he'd become a Vaishnava. He started his Leela showing himself as a devotee. Then Gadadhar Pandit and all the residents, the devotee residents of Navadvip, overjoyed to see this transformation. So Gadadhar Pandit, this Gadadhar Pandit, came to Puri, took kshetra-sannyas, and the deity that he worshipped, Gopinath, the deity is Gopinath, there in Puri, used to be standing, and this is one of these, it's not a story, it is a fact confirmed by Gurudev and Guru Maharaj, because some of the stories in the holy places we do need to get a little confirmation about really it is so, and this really it is so. Gopinath, the Lord of the Gopis, he was standing playing his flute, and Krishna can stand and play his flute or any other way play his flute, but he was standing and playing his flute. But in the later pastimes of Gadadhar Pandit, then it came to a stage where he couldn't reach up, or was having much difficulty to reach up to garland the Lord in the daily worship. And he then considered the situation and then considered, all right, now I have to hire a Brahmana to do the puja of the Lord, to do his worship, because I'm unable to reach up to the Lord. And he'd already engaged a Brahmana, a pujari, a priest, and the next day that priest was due to come and start his seva, we hear it in this way. And then in the morning when Gadadhar Pandit came to see the deity, he saw that this same Gopinath, instead of standing, was sitting down, and so that he could garland him. And Gopinath did not want to have another servitor, he wanted to be served by Gadadhar Pandit. So this temple of Tota Gopinath, and Tota means garden, and until today it's in a cool, refreshing garden. The temple is in a cool, refreshing garden, and with a giant, very big tree, which we would always regularly be under to have some Harikatha, so we're not disturbing in the temple, because pilgrims are always coming and can be quite noisy in the temple also. And then, I suppose 4 years ago now, probably, then there was a big storm in Puri, quite a famous, I heard it reached the worldwide news, a hurricane force storm, which did a lot of damage in Jagannath Puri, and that giant tree snapped at just above the root. And we were very sad to see that. We think that tree, we don't know how old it is, but we can think what a pious tree there in the garden. But many other trees are there, but this was a particularly large tree. So we've come to Tota Gopinath, and by the grace of the pujaris, we get the opportunity to go very close to Gopinath in single file. We come around in turn and give our obeisances, and as with all the temples, give some dakshin wherever we go, giving some service. We're not going there to take, we want to render service to the Lord. So giving some donation, and then continuing around, and quite likely we'll now come outside and we will sit under some other trees, but sit in the shade in the garden of Gopinath, Tota Gopinath's garden. And here we can invite Srila Goswami Maharaj. It's the disappearance day today of Gadadhar Pandit, and the disappearance day of Bhaktivinod Thakur. And we can ask Maharaj, please have a seat comfortably on the asan here. Here is some water, and here's the microphone, Maharaj, too.
Hare Krishna.
Share some substantial with us.
We hear Guru Maharaj modified the song Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Korumari. This line, Gaura-prem tanu Pandita Gadadhar. So we hear also, always of Krishna Prem, and rightfully so. But here, there's also the concept of Gaura-prem, love for Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And here that Gaura-prema tanu means Gaura-premamoya tanu, the personification of love for Sri Gauranga. So Guru Maharaj will say, no one exceeds Gadadhar Pandit's love for Gauranga. We know Nityananda, that's another context, and then Swarup, Rup, Sanatana, etc. But Gadadhar Pandit stands supreme in this regard. And we know from our Guru Varga and the Acharyas that as Krishna has descended as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, having done what? Param kasyapi prani janam vidastu kutuki rasotstamam hritva maduram upabhoktam kamapiya. Plundered the wealth of the heart of Srimati Radharani, like stolen that heart, like when Krishna, the Kutuki curiosity awakened in Krishna to experience the position of Srimati Radharani, he realized that as Govindam Adi Purusha, the enjoyer of enjoyers, the supreme enjoyer, right? That is antithetical to the position of devotee. Devotee's position is not one of enjoyment, but enjoyed. So he cannot experience that as Govinda, because he is the Adi Purush. But yet, Radharani's association has awakened, Krishna consciousness in Krishna. That's the power of association. That she is so great, she can convert Krishna into a devotee. That's unthinkable. That's why we hear, in those early pastimes, it's a play, and a very sweet play, Gadadhar Pandit saying, Nimai Pandit's perfect in every way, but not a devotee. And it's true, he's Krishna, playing in a particular way, but not showing devotion yet. And when he does come back from Gaya and starts showing devotional tendencies, and he actually falls down and gives dandavats to all of the devotees and touching their feet and saying, please, you all bless me that I may have devotion to Krishna. So he's showing also, that's the only way you get devotion. Bhaktya sanjatya bhakti. You don't get it by reading books or doing particular things. It can only come from someone who has devotion. They can ignite devotion in another, give birth to devotion in only that way. Right. So, and always this is being shown, and this principle is being maintained. It's never crossed over. There's no example of anyone getting Krishna consciousness or devotion without contact with devotion. And which alludes to the supreme devotee, Srimati Radharani. It's all coming from her. That's how extensive her devotion is. Any devotion is actually an extension of hers, either directly or indirectly. She's responsible for all of it. So, but as we can understand something about the inconceivable beauty, Raso, Dhamma, Kamar, Buddha, Madhura, Dhammo, Jula, Tanur, 10 million cupids in full-blown cupidity, or Koti Kami Murchi Tangvi Rupa Rasa Rangaram, 10 million cupids fainting to see the beauty of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Why? Because you have Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda combined with Radharani. So if Krishna is already inconceivably beautiful, and then you add to that Srimati Radharani, what kind of personality is that, and what kind of beauty? That's why you see Mahaprabhu there on the Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. But just as a sidebar, a footnote, that how beautiful Gadadhar Pandit must be. So if Srimati Radharani descends in Gaura Leela as a devoted boy, how beautiful Gadadhar Pandit, and charming, and in every way imaginable. Not only the countenance and the bodily beauty, but gesture, movement, speech, mood of devotion, everything. And we're told that Gadadhar Pandit, by the script of Yogamaya, had not taken initiation, and whose good friend was Mukunda Datta, who's from what then was called East Bengal, and Chatragram. I think it's called Chittagaon now, but it was Chatragram at the time. And that's where Pundarik Vidyanidhi lived. And because it's where the Ganga doesn't flow, then he's coming, keeps a secondary residence in Navadip, and comes for Ganga Darshan and Seva Puja sometimes in a year. Men of means could do something like that. And Mukunda Datta, being Gadadhar Pandit's great friend, said, like, would you like to meet a Vaishnava? And Gadadhar, yes, that's the whole point, of course. He said, well, one great Vaishnava is coming from my hometown, Chatragram, and so he brings him there, and we're told Pundarik Vidyanidhi is, on a jeweled palanquin with oiled hair, wearing silk garments, surrounded by silk cushions, smoking a hookah, and chewing pan, eyes rolling in intoxication. And Mukunda goes, there's your Vaishnava. So the point being that practically in every way conceivable, his stereotypically antithetical to what we would imagine a Vaishnava to be. And there's a point to that. Right? We expect, and Gadadhar Pandit in this context expected to see something else. And then sees this, someone who appears to be a Bishai, which means a gross materialist. Okay? And Gadadhar Pandit is like in a state of shock. But Mukunda, and just saying the beautiful vision Mukunda done, like from his heart, he's like, you're my best friend. This is the best person for you to meet. And Gadadhar Pandit cannot conceal his doubt and apprehension. And Mukunda Dutt, being their close friends, and can see that and say, oh, I see. So you're seeing him externally, right? You're not, you can't look past that towards the subjective aspect of who is before you. So we know Mukunda Dutt's a famous singer, also in Vrindavan, but in Gaura Lila, and so starts singing the sloka from the Bhagavatam, Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam Jigam Sayapayaya Dapyasadvi Lebhegatim Datri Uchitam Tatonyam Kamba Dayalum Sharanam Brajema. It's from the third canto of the Bhagavatam. And this sloka, it's like Vidura, Vidura, that section, Uddhava, Vidura. And Uddhava has been questioned about Krishna and goes into this deep state of remembrance of Krishna for some time unable to answer. He goes so deep and he's thinking and think that Uddhava, asamaho chanareno jashama hangsham Uddhava. What is it? Latosadinam. Vrindavane Kima Gulma Latosadinam, who aspires to be a creeper or a blade of grass, an atomic presence in the soil of Vrindavan. See how these great devotees think, how they conceptualize, how they conceive. As we've told many times, that we have those newly recruited to Krishna consciousness, voyeuristically envisioning themselves as super servitors, intruding upon intimate pastimes. And here's Uddhava. If anyone has this sort of rite of passage, what does he say? He's thinking of Krishna's supremely merciful dealings with Putana Rakshasi. That's what he's saying. And this is the verse that Mukunda Dutt. He doesn't start singing some sloka about the intimate affairs of Radha and Krishna. No such thing. Those who have an appreciation for that, they're keeping that close, concealed. Okay? He's chanting a sloka about how merciful Krishna is, as demonstrated in his liberating Putana Rakshasi. That's what... And Guru Maharaj said, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, hearing that, Guru Maharaj said, then the bomb burst. He could no longer conceal his position. And in that verse, what he's saying is that Bhakti, that means Putana, that she approached Krishna with murderous intentions. And Krishna, by coming in connection with him, she became liberated and achieved a mother-like position, like beyond ordinary liberation. So he's saying, this is the point he's making. If this is the outcome of someone who approaches Krishna with murderous intentions, completely the antithesis of, Krishnanushilanam, what is, favorable to devotion. And this is dealt with in different parts of the Bhagavatam. It's saying like, Kamsa, Shishupal, they hated Krishna. But the hatred was such, like, they're always thinking of Krishna. So in one place, Narada is saying like, yogis aren't this intense in their meditation, as Shishupal and Kamsa. Maybe there's something there to that, He's saying by comparison, it's other types of meditation are not that intense. This is obsession. 24 hours a day, sleeping, wake up in the morning, Told, as Prahlad, when he went to school, Kaka Gagana, Ka, Krishna, he faints, Kaka Ga, Govinda, he can't get through the alphabet. We're told that Shishupal, as a toddler, the first words that ever, they go like, oh, what are the first words the baby's going to say? Right? We're told the first words Shishupal said was Ninda of Krishna. As a toddler, he was blaspheming Krishna. That's pretty intense. So, he's saying, if this is how he deals with his enemies, then even a neutral approach would draw something superior to that. What to speak of Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhura, Swaki, Parakya, like that's what he's saying. So he's saying, Kamba doyalum sharanam brajema. Who is a more worthy person to take shelter of? But hearing this brings about this intense remembrance, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who is Vrishabhanu Maharaj, the father of Srimati Radharani and Krishna Lila. And he's so overwhelmed in ecstatic remembrance of Krishna, he throws the hookah, the pillows, he starts pulling his hair, and he's saying, Kamba dhalum sharanam brajema. Who is more merciful, Lord, than he? And falls from the palanquin on the ground, fainted to this world, and so deep in the upper world that he's in a trance for 9 hours. So that later when Mahaprabhu meets him, because he's saying, Bap Pundarik, Father Pundarik, and devotees are saying, who is that? We've heard of like Pundarik Kaksham Vishnu. Who is this Pundarik that Mahaprabhu is always crying out for and saying, Father, you know? And then they understand, oh, Vrishabhanu Maharaj, because he's in the mood of Radharani, so Father, like that. But when he meets him, he doesn't call him Vidyanidhi, calls him Premanidhi. It's not an ocean of Vidya, but an ocean of Krishna Prem. He's saying, now my life is perfect, that I'm seeing him, being seen by him. When they embrace, they practically melt into each other for hours. The meeting of Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Mahaprabhu. So then, seeing that, Gadadhar Pandit thinks like, oh my, what has happened? Just the, we're on the verge of supreme auspiciousness, and now the most inauspicious thing has happened with Vaishnava Aparad. I've seen not only a Vaishnava, but a Vaishnava, of the, what do you say, Vaishnavottama, the topmost Vaishnava, and I've thought offensively toward him. Who knows what hell awaits me as a consequence to this? So Gadadhar Pandit is devastated, but Mukunda Dutt says, we're told that the guru doesn't accept offenses from the disciple, like the parent and the child, so if you will take initiation from him, then all will be forgiven, as if it never even happened. Gadadhar saying, Mukunda, you are my best friend for sure. And so when he asks, Gadadhar still asks permission from Nimai Pandit, and Nimai Pandit saying, of course, that is your father, of course, that's all right. Later we're told, Gadadhar Pandit forgets the mantra, right? Again, that play of Yoga Maya in the past, forgets the Diksha mantra and says to Mahaprabhu, I'm saying, can you tell it to me again? I forgot it. So our devotees who forget some things from time to time, don't feel bad. And Mahaprabhu is saying, no, that is your guru. You should hear from your guru again. So you go back and hear. He maintained the prestige of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who also later we know ends up in Jagannath Puri. The Chaitanya Bhagavat concludes with that pastime where he objected to the Pandas offering the Madhua starch cloth to Jagannath. Like we know in India, you get this cloth, it's like cardboard. Then you have to wash it and get all this, and then it softens up after a while. Sometimes you see ladies on holidays wearing these saris that look like boxes, walking around, because it's still got the starch in it. So there's something there. But anyway, the Pandas, remember, who descended from the Saburas, or Saburs, as you may, they're just giving that cloth to Jagannath. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi is saying, like, come on, at least, wash the starch. I mean, it's so itchy and starchy. And, we're told that night, Krishna and Jagannath and Balabhadra appear to him and saying, these are our dear servants, we like it this way. So don't try and correct them. And then they start slapping him, Jagannath and Balabhadra. And when he wakes up in the morning, his face is swollen and bruised from all the slapping. But he's smiling, he's very happy. So it ends on this note, you could say, about raga-marg. But, so Gadadhar Pandit, there's an ontological dilemma that we're presented with in the Antya-lila, where there's a comparison of Gadadhar Pandit and the Dwaraka queen, Rukmini. Because generally speaking, we've heard from Guru Maharaj that in Vrindavan, heart is above intellect. In Dwaraka, intellect above heart. Heart above intellect, Vrindavan means Radharani number 1, Chandravali number 2. Right? But in Dwaraka, their positions reverse. So Chandravali expands out of Vrindavan into Dwaraka as Rukmini. Radharani expands out of Dwaraka and out of Vrindavan into Dwaraka as Satyabhama, who has the Bhama Bhav. She's not always agreeable to the different proposals of Krishna. Whereas Rukmini is very submissive, to the point of when to test her, to tease her, Krishna saying once, you're such a wonderful wife and so pure and perfect and everything. I'm not a suitable husband. I'm not a suitable match for you. You could do better. And just at the thought of that, whereas Satyabhama would fight, Rukmini, the idea that their marriage could be dissolved, she faints. We're told, like the way a hurricane uproots a tree, she went down like. So she does not oppose any suggestions coming from Krishna. So, and there are places where we're told sometimes in Puri, Mahaprabhu is teasing Gadadhar Pandit. And there are other devotees who are saying, like, I wouldn't take that. You should speak up. You should say something. And Gadadhar Pandit, no, toleration is best for me. And there it's mentioned that, like Rukmini. So then we went, wait, plunder the heart and halo of Radharani to become Gauranga. Why? And there in Guru Maharaj again, as the Acharya extracts the inner meaning, saying, yes, this comparison is legitimate in this sense that since the heart of Radharani has been plundered by Gauranga, he's saying, what's left is a facsimile. Sometimes he would say carcass. I only say that because Guru Maharaj said that. So he's saying, or he said, like a man who had wealth, a bag of jewels and wealth, and someone stole it all. And he said, with the empty bag, is running after that man, trying to reclaim the wealth that was taken from them. Many examples Guru Maharaj gave, but what he's saying is, so the reason why it stands, and of course it's Charitamritam, we know it's perfect, we just have to adjust ourselves to the point of proper consideration and Siddhantic, adjustment, that yes, so if you take away the Bhama Bhav of Radharani, that her real heart, then the remainder is similar to Rukmini. And therefore that sort of comparison is given. But we know sometimes though, Gadadhar Pandit, you could say, a little irritated or annoyed in a divine way, because as Maharaj mentioned, it took kshetra-sannyas, which means the vow to stay in one holy place and never leave. So at one point when Mahaprabhu is going to go to other places, Vrindavan included, Gadadhar Pandit wants to go. Remember, Gadadhar Pandit was at the house of Nimai Pandit. The evening before the sannyas, they go to Katva, from Katva to Puri. Gadadhar Pandit is there all the time. And at a certain point, Mahaprabhu telling Gadadhar Pandit, you must now stay in Puri. I have to go. One place, Guru Maharaj said, the queen of Vrindavan is not given entrance in the Vrindavan. But we could say, to prevent the heartache, in this context, it would be heartbreaking for Gadadhar Pandit, and there's other reasons. But anyway, so when Gauranga Mahaprabhu is saying, do not leave and don't give up the service of Gopinath. You've made a vow to stay here and do the service of Gopinath. Right? And Gadadhar Pandit says, by coming in connection with your holy lotus feet, Gopinath is served millions of times. That was Gadadhar Pandit's response, and said, and you know what about the kshetra-sannyas? To hell with my kshetra-sannyas. That's what I think about it. To hell with it. And by serving you, Gopinath is served millions and millions of times. What are you saying to me? And then Mahaprabhu realizes this is a little problematic. And so said, look, like basically, do it for me. Like, this just is not going, the optics of this are not good. So I'm just telling you, you're going to have to stay here. It's just the way it is. But Gadadhar Pandit was not entirely happy about that from the beginning. But accepting, and as I told, they're with worshipping Gopinath, Tota Gopinath, and that means cooking for the deity. We heard the other day about Raghava Pandit, and when Das Goswami feeding the associates of Nityananda Prabhu, the Chirodoi festival, and Raghava Pandit say, no, you, in the evening, come over to my house. And we know that she's Danishta, and that Radharani appears in the house of Raghava Pandit to cook. And Mahaprabhu comes there. So now you have Radharani herself as Gadadhar Pandit in Puri cooking. And Nityananda Prabhu will come from Navadvip. He's big, besides he's Balabhadra, he's so strong. He brings like a mound, manna of rice, beautiful, we can, inconceivably wonderful rice, from the Vaikuntha world. Like, that means like 40 kilos, 100 pounds sack. And he brings some cloth for the deity, right, for Gopinath. So he gives them the Gadadhar Pandit and saying, so Gadadhar, you take this rice and make something, and here's some cloth for Gopinath, make an outfit, with like tailors and as indicate, Tota means garden. So the humble shak, the spinach, so favorite to Mahaprabhu, the glories of shak, spinach, are sung in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that because Mahaprabhu is generally traveling, so it means they're collecting, when they see on the side of the road, the jungle, they're collecting that. That's what is on the menu every day. And Mahaprabhu will say, this type of shak gives this type of Krishna prem, this one, like, it's very divine. And in that garden of the Tota Gopinath garden, Gadadhar Pandit collects the shak, cooks that, and then the rice given by Nityananda, and Nityananda saying, and this is all contingent upon your inviting me for lunch, So Gadadhar Pandit very happily cooking and arranging all of this, and Nityananda coming, and then Gadadhar Pandit hears Gauranga Mahaprabhu calling, Gadadhar, Gadadhar, and look, I heard about what's going on here with Nityananda and this lunch, and am I not invited? And and then the three of them take prasadam together very happily. And there's a section there in the Chaitanya Bhagavat where Gadadhar is just professing unalloyed love and devotion toward Nityananda, and just saying the impossibility of anyone getting the grace of Gadadhar, or to speak of Gauranga, if they do not appreciate and love Nityananda Prabhu. So, and there we know that Gadadhar Pandit is reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is inconceivable, because we can think like Srimati Radharani explaining the Bhagavatam. It doesn't get any better than that. Right? Right? And mention in the beginning, Nirmat Saranam Satam, Nirmat Sarja, saying the secret to Krishna conception is that you cannot envy Krishna's devotees. Rather, the inverse, you must appreciate them, worship them, celebrate them. That's how you get Krishna. It's very peculiar, the Krishna religion. Right? Because the number one position in Krishna religion is the devotee of Krishna. More than God is the devotee. Prabhupada once said about Mother Yasoda's, and he said, greater than God. Right? That's the position of the devotee, greater than God. Through them you get Krishna. Otherwise, directly, what kind of Krishna you'll get? Fictitious Krishna, imaginary Krishna, the Krishna of not real and substantial. So, and Guru Maharaj, his sloka, Yadamiya Mahima Sri Bhagavatyam Katayam Pratipatam Anubhutam Apya Labdavideya Tarakila Rasamurti Shamalila Avalambam Madhura Rasadi Sri Radha Pada Padmam Prapadye, saying that although her name is not mentioned there, every step of the way is meant to take us in the direction of the service of her holy lotus feet. That is the message of the Bhagavatam. Gayatri Murlista Kirtanadanam Radha Padam Dhimai. And the Mat logo, Gurudev has Guru Maharaj's Gayatri explanation. What is the subject of Krishna's fluting? Gayatri Murlista means the Murli, the flute. Kirtanadanam, the kirtan of the flute. What is it? Radha Padam Dhimai. Is meditating on the service of the holy lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. That is the secret, the open secret, you can say, of Krishna consciousness. So she is there as Gadadhar Pandit, reading the Bhagavatam. Who's in the audience? Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, Advaita, Haridas Thakur. His samadhi is there in the sands of Jagannath Puri. Bhaktivinod Thakur composed one verse in English, says, he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, for thou art living still in sound. For Vaishnavas died to live, and in living try to spread the holy name around. Near there is Bhakti Kutir, the Bhajan Kutir of Bhaktivinod Thakur. That same Haridas Thakur, who the Namacharya, chanting 3 lakhs of Krishna Nam every day, he doesn't want to see the Shesh Leela of Mahaprabhu, the final pastimes, so ask permission to leave. Mahaprabhu comes one day to see him and saying, Haridas, how are you doing? He said, not good. He can't do his prescribed rounds, complete them. And you're older, but it's a plea. And he said, no, here's the truth of the matter. Soon you're going to wind up, I won't be able to bear it. Let me leave first. And he's given permission. Mahaprabhu comes later with the devotees, and who's chanting 3 lakhs of Krishna Nam every day. What does he do? Put the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu in his heart. And what does he chant? Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. We always say Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. As Guru Maharaj mentioned, it's not found anywhere in any scripture. So why do we do that? We do it all the time. It's not written down anywhere. But better than that, Guru Maharaj said, it's part of the eternal paraphernalia of Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva. That's where it comes from. Not written down somewhere and told you should do this or that. No, directly from them. That's why it's so special. And Srila Guru Maharaj also like to chant this Nitai Gaur Gadadhar Advaita Srivas. Sometimes he would sit for a long period of time just chanting Nitai Gaur Gadadhar, Nitai Gaur Gadadhar, Nitai Gaur Gadadhar, Nitai Gaur Gadadhar. So, and he says Gaur Gadadhar is the Acharya Leela of Radha and Krishna. He said, but sometimes, for some, and Gurudev told, it's the private bhajan chamber of Bhaktivinod Thakur, not to be imitated, but he's worshipping Gaur Gadadhar. It's in his song, Smara Gaura Gadadhara. Srinu Gaura Gadadhara, Kali Kadam, etc. And Guru Maharaj said that sometimes Gaur Gadadhar reveal themselves as Radha and Krishna according to the inner necessity of the heart of that devotee. But, so, this Shamalila Avalambam, the whole Madhura Rasa pastimes are dependent upon Srimati Radharani. So the whole book, Bhagavatam, really, it's about Krishna conception, and the gateway is, what does it say? Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes, and also Mahi Rajo Padabrijo Vishekam Niskinchananam, always through the doorway, that's it, Ahur, Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes, means the door of liberation is through the lotus feet, service to the lotus feet of the devotees, and that means by extension Srimati Radharani. So Gadadhar Pandit giving those Bhagavad explanations, told, of course, when Mahaprabhu came there, Gadadhar put Bhagavatam down, or if Nityananda. But, so giving these extraordinary, unparalleled insight, so much so that when the transfer is coming of the Rupa Nuga line and its descent, and gradually this Mahaprabhu and Swrupdamodar, they're leaving from the world. Remember, Rath Yatra is also the disappearance day of Swrupdamodar, and which is very peculiar. And Gurudev said in Koi Kali that because there's no description of the disappearance of Mahaprabhu or the day or Nityananda, Advaita, but there are various about Mahaprabhu, that some say they saw him enter Jagannath, others say walk across the sea, others go up in the sky. Guru Maharaj said, Bhaktivinod Thakur said that he entered the Tota Gopinath deity. And if we think, well, and the pujaris there, they like to lift the cloth, show this golden streak, but if we think Gadadhar Pandit, this is tenable, but Gurudev alluded to, saying, as we heard many times, Swarup Damodar, they cannot find Mahaprabhu, and they go on the search party. So he's saying, Swarup Damodar cannot live without Mahaprabhu. Impossible. So if Swarup Damodar's disappearance day is on the Rath Yatra day, and Gurudev was indicating, that means on this one particular time, they couldn't find Mahaprabhu, and that's the way. And that's why that's the disappearance day of Swarup Damodar. But anyway, so we'll hear from Guru Maharaj in a moment in glorification of Bhaktivinod Thakur about the glories of Swarup Damodar. He's saying the steel frame of which, like the structure, when you make a skyscraper, the structure upon which Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam is built, it's given in these first opening verses that are primarily Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami, and later Raghunath Das Goswami. But so that Gadadhar Pandit, Mahaprabhu's divine will was that Srinivasacharya would get the wealth of Gadadhar Pandit. So, Tene Brahma Hrida, heart-to-heart transaction from the heart of Gadadhar Pandit to the heart of Srinivasacharya, who was entrusted with all the books of the Goswamis. So that's Srinivas, who was, the nephew or of that Chaitanya Das who witnessed the sannyas of Mahaprabhu and Katwa. Pardon me? Son. Anyway, he makes his way to Vrindavan, to Gadadhar Pandit, who's on the verge. And Gadadhar Pandit is saying, what I would like to teach you, my tears have washed those slokas away from the pages of the Bhagavatam. Right? So, Srila Guru Maharaj, we know Bhaktivinod Thakur was given the order by Swarup Damodar to collect 1,000 slokas from the 18,000 raid son of the Bhagavat Arka, Marityamala. Guru Maharaj had a mind to do 200 or 300, didn't get to that as of, what we can perceive in this plane, but did write some introductory slokas like the one we mentioned about the Bhagavatam and Srimati Radharani. And one he composed there also was in glorification of Gadadhar Pandit, when he said, Nilam bodhi tate sada subiraha kepan vitam bandhavam Srimad Bhagavati Katha Madhiraya Sanjeevayan Bhattiya Srimad Bhagavatam Payanai Swanayana Supayanai Pujayam Goswami Prabharo Gadadhara Vibhur Bhuyat Madeka Gati. So what is the purpose of this collection? Saying, really, it should be an offering to that best of the Goswamis, Goswami Gadadhara Vibhur. That's my intent. If I can please Gadadhar Pandit, that's the target. And what does he say? On the shore of that broad blue ocean, Nilam bodhi tata, Nilam bodhi tate sada swaviraha. Krishna, enveloped in the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani, is experiencing separation from himself. Krishna Viraha, here described as Sva Viraha. So the supreme positive in the garb and the guise of the supreme negative is experiencing Vipralamba Bhav, separation, which we're told in contrast to the joys of union, Sambhog Vipralamba, exceeds that. The separation plunges a greater depth of heart and yields a superior type of spiritual substance or divine love, Krishna Prem. That's what he's doing. And it says, Swaviraha Kepamvitam Bandhavam, in the association of his dear friend, that's how he became like this. There's his dear friend now in Gaura Leela, Gadadhar. So he took the heart of, now he's there like this, and Gadadhar is perfectly positioned to say, oh, when I feel like that, here's a verse that augments that particular sentiment, singing that verse from the Bhagavatam. Or when I feel like, here's a verse that gives some relief for that type of pain or separation. Gadadhar Pandit is selecting these verses from the Bhagavatam, but is also moved and in a deep state of ecstasy, so much so that tears are streaming from the lotus eyes of Gadadhar Pandit, falling onto the pages of the Bhagavatam, as if they themselves are flower offerings. Because normally some flowers should be offered to the Bhagavatam first, and then offering oneself as a medium for expression. So the Gadadhar Pandit's tears are streaming from his eyes as he's singing these slokas, to Mahaprabhu, and they're washing away the verses. So he sends Srinivasacharya to get a new Bhagavatam. And we know when he returns, Gadadhar Pandit has left the world. And ends up at the feet of Jiva Goswami in Vrindavan. And Guru Maharaj points out, because it was the will of Mahaprabhu that the wealth and the heart of Gadadhar Pandit be transferred to Srinivasacharya, that it was realized just in the zigzag way. It didn't come as we might have expected. Right? So, Madhusudan Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
You can say something. I will speak next about Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur. And if there's anything you would like to say at this point about what we just discussed or what we've not discussed.
Maharaj, everything that's been discussed is wonderful, and we are all ears. And Maharaj, we are sitting there in the garden of Tota Gopinath hearing these things. Maharaj, perhaps we just do one parikrama around the deities, give our obeisances to Tota Gopinath, and then we can go on parikrama to Bhaktivinod Thakur's bhajan kutir, or to his house on the Grand Road where Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was born, where he appeared. One of these places we may go to, if you wish, Maharaj, for further discussion. And perhaps just as a break from one to the other, we can have one Panchatattva Mahamantra heard from the devotees there, and two Mahamantras perhaps.
Yes. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura, Hari Bol.
And this is indeed something we have common with the Shri Navadip Dham Parikrama and Shri Vrindavan and Govardhan Parikramas. Wherever we go, the sound of the movement is nam-sankirtan. So this is something which, when we finish our parikramas, when we walk anywhere, it seems what's missing. We don't have the sound of the sankirtan with our feet moving. That's what's missing. So Maharaj, perhaps we've come to the Grand Road and to the present-day Mat, which is established at the place where Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur lived for some time in Jagannath Puri, and where where Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared. And we know that Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur, with his many responsibilities in the world, he was also appointed as one of the in-charges of the Jagannath temple, where he controlled, for instance, what they call graft, means so that the money, the donations went to the Lord and not to the pockets of others, as it were. But he was part of the administration. I don't know the exact title that he held, but a senior part of the administration of the temple, and to stamp out corruption especially, and as well as many other duties there in Jagannath Puri. So, Maharaj, over to you. He actually passed away. Today's his disappearance day. He passed away in Navadip Dham, not in Puri Dham, and his samadhi is there, in just near the Saraswati, in Godrumadeep, in Navadip. And we're in Puri, and in Puri, then perhaps most of us associate best this temple here on the Grand Road with Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur. So, Maharaj, we're laying down an asan for you to sit here in the large Nath Mandir, and Maharaj, some cool water, refreshing water for you to be refreshed. And Maharaj, we're at your holy feet.
I remember that the last time I was there and giving a talk in the temple room, that this one massive bull cow came and sat in front of me, like came right up and then like sat down and sat there like, for the entire time.
Yes.
It was real. I mean, right in the, like here, you know, in the Nath Mandir, the temple room. And it's India, so everyone's just like, no one goes like, shh, shh, you know, like they just, they're respecting, showing respect. And so Srila Guru Maharaj went to, I asked him once, thinking about Bhaktivinod Thakur, that his contribution, to say it's extensive is an understatement. It's like everything and beyond, and Hare Krishna, but he, under the influence of Yoga Maya, allows his life to play out in a certain way to show that at a particular stage in life, he's embracing the teachings of Gauranga and Charitamritam, and then promoting, and I just saying to Guru, it's like, it's not believable when you consider the output of him. If you follow this trajectory, that in his 40s, then he becomes this way, and then all, you know, the Jaiva Dharma, Chaitanya Shikshamritam, all the songs, the commentaries on Charitamritam, etc. And Guru Maharaj said, yes. He said, really, if we consider the gifts of Bhaktivinod Thakur, we can understand it was not achieved in this lifetime. That was the point. I said, that's not believable. And he said, yes, it means that he descended from the upper world to distribute something here. He came down with this wealth. It was not acquired in this lifetime, and then he distributed what he acquired. Rather, he descended from that higher plane. And so Guru Maharaj again composed one succinct sloka. There's Guru Dam, Grantadam, Gaura-dam, Namadam, Uda, Bhakti Dam, Buridam Bande, Bhaktivinod Dam Muda. What are the gifts of Bhaktivinod Thakur? Everything. Remember, he discovers Mayapur and the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. Right? And Tarakeshwar is where he had visions. That's the significance of that. So he, and in Puri, where Saraswati Thakur appears, there are different, how do you say, secondary deities throughout inside. One of them is Bimala Devi. And he prayed something to Bimala Devi because all of his children, they have names like Lalita Prasad. this prasad, that prasad. So prayed to that Bimala Devi and got this extraordinary son, so he named him Bimala Prasad, was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, how rare, he has maybe 12, 14 children. Guru Maharaj said, out of all of them, 2 are serious about Krishna culture. And one of them we consider to be a Sahajya imitationist. So how, Kotish Mahamune, what is the verse? Yes, no. Anyway, how rare it is for someone to be a genuine devotee. So Bhaktivinod Thakur, in his Gurudam, Granthadam, he gave us all of our books, and including our songs. Our songs are primarily Bhaktivinod Thakur or Narottam Thakur. And we know, as Chaitanya Saraswati Mat, we have some from Srila Guru Maharaj, some from Srila Gurudev, but really it's the songs of Bhaktivinod Thakur, the books of Bhaktivinod Thakur. The Vaishnavism, since the time of Mahaprabhu, as always, it went off and became infested with different types of Sahajyaism. So much so that one, Totaram Das Babaji, at the time he analyzed like 12 different Sahajya Sampradayas. And there may be 100 since then, but at the time, 12. Ao, Bao, Sahajya, Gauranga Nagari, Nari, there's just some, Jati Goshai, it just goes on. And Bhaktivinod Thakur accepted his analysis. So it means it was just, as he says in his Bhagavad speech, that the truth, although received in its purity, is gradually, inevitably, invariably converted into error or falsity. That's in the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter. Yoga nashta parantapa. Yoga here means the link was broken. The pure current link broken. Again in the Uddhava Gita, parampar jena prakriti by chitra. The truth is one spoken, and then the hearers modify it. It becomes modified according to the temperament of the hearer. We could say in some instances, enhanced, like Raguganaya Swaditam Sevitam. In other instances, what is the word? Modified, but in a bad sense. What is it? What is the word for that?
Perhaps distorted, Maharaj?
Distorted. It's another word. I think it starts with an M, but anyway. Manipulated, that's another one. Anyway, all of these things. There needed to be a course correction. And Bhaktivinod Thakur provided that. Right. And we know it was for some time in Puri, but then later transferred to Krishna Nagar and living in Swarupganj and Surabhi Kunj, Swananda Sukata Kunja. There he's has a vision of the city of Mayapur, reveals the birthplace of Mahaprabhu, Gurudam, Granthadam, Gaura-dam, the spiritual cartography of Navadvip. He reveals that. How do we know where all these places are when we go in the Navadvip-dham Parikrama? If you read the Navadvip-dham Parikrama, you'll see he's the Saptarshis, the 7, he's talking about things that happened 10,000 years ago or more in different yugas, different ages. When he's in Surabhi Kunj, In the morning, this one disciple later of Saraswati Thakur was a neighbor, and he'd hear him taking the name Krishna Nam early in the morning, 3 a.m. Said as if he was crying off to his out to his lost beloved in the distance, pathetically. And he feels the breeze coming from Nrsimhapoli going towards the Yog Pith, and realize that Nrsimhadev is attending the Mangalarati of Gauranga, that Bhaktivinod Thakur, who Swarup Damodar appears to in a vision and tells him to do this Bhagavat Arka Marichi Mala, Bhagavat Slok collection. Granted him Gauradam, Namadam. He gives the holy name of Krishna, Bhakti Dham Bhuriva, and devotion. And what kind of devotion? We hear expressed by Srila Guru Maharaj, who in the lifetime of Srila Saraswati Thakur, Guru Maharaj's strategy was like, how can I capture my Guru Maharaj? So he thought, so many deities, Saraswati Thakur have the word Vinod, like Radha Vinod, and this Vinod, Vinod, Vinod. And Guru Maharaj's words, Bhaktivinod Thakur is everything to Saraswati Thakur. So he said, I'm thinking, if I praise Bhaktivinod Thakur, then I'll capture Srila Saraswati Thakur. So that's my strategy. So he writes composes the Bhaktivinod Viraha Dasakam. These 10 slokas in praise of Bhaktivinod Thakur and separation from Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur. And they're all wonderful. Some I've alluded to in what I've said up to this point. But Saraswati Thakur saw this in his lifetime being published in one of the Gaudiya Math publications. He saw it in the proof stage. And a particular verse caught his attention. And Sri Gaura-anumatam Swarupa Viditam Rupagrajenadritam Rupadye Pariveshitam Ragugunai Ashvaditam Shevitam Jivadye Abhirakshitam Sukha Shiva Brahma Samanitam Sri Radha Padasevinamritam Aho Tadattamisho Bhavan. Where he's saying, what is the gift of Bhaktivinod Thakur to this world? When Saraswati Thakur saw it, he said, who wrote this? And Goswami Maharaj, they said, oh, it's composed by Sridhar Maharaj. And that's when he said, no, Sridhar Maharaj has not written this. He said, Bhaktivinod Thakur has written this through him. That's how perfect it was. And that's when he said, oh, now I am satisfied that soon I may leave the world, but I descended here to distribute something, to give something. Right? And now I see evidence that it's been received in full. So now I'm happy to know that after me, someone will remain behind who can represent me fully and perfectly. And that man is Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. So what does he show? That this ability to properly identify these divine personalities and what are their unique qualities, traits, characteristics, and contributions. Devotees of lower stature, they can say, they're all divine, we revere them all, and that's correct. That's the proper approach. But they may not be able to, say, Rup, Sanatan, Bhattara, what distinguishes one from the other? They'll say Srinivasacharya, he's beautifully shown what they hold in common in his Sad Goswami Astakam. But if you said, what distinguishes them? What are the unique contributions of Rupa compared to Sanatan, to Raghunatha, etc.? Srila Guru Maharaj has that capacity. Right? Don't think that this is something everyone, no, he has that. That's what Saraswati Thakur recognized in him. And so what does he say? Back on point. Sri Gauranumatam Swarupa Viditam. So this whole thing we're talking about, Puri, Rath Yatra, everything, who knows really what's going on? Swarup Damodar. That's what Swarup Vidita is saying. Only he knows fully. That's why Mahaprabhu is saying, how does Rupa know this? Swarup Damodar. He's asking Swarup Damodar. That tells you right there that his position, Swarupam Bibrano Jagatatulyam, it's incomparable. So, Guru Maharaj begins with that. The real reason for the internal descent, the internal reason for the descent of Gauranga Mahaprabhu is known fully and only to Swarup Damodar. That's why Kaviraj Goswami will say, anyone who knows anything about Mahaprabhu internally, substantially, must have got it from Swarup Damodar. And then that means by extension, Raghunath, Rup, etc. So, and Sri Gaurananumatam Swarupa Viditam Rupagrajain Adritam. And very perfectly, who's next? Sanatana Goswami. Rupagraja, he's saying, the elder of Rupa. That will make Rupa Goswami happy to be presented that way. And he's saying, Rupagrajain. And what it is, Swarup Damodar knows, what Gauranga Maharaj, what it is, Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, he's worshiping that. It's worshipable to him. Rupagrajain Adritam, Rupadye Pariveshitam. And Rupa and his followers, the Rupanuga line, they're serving this, extending this divine substance to others very mercifully. Rupadye Pariveshitam, Raghu Ganai. And so that means Raghu Gan. Who's the Raghu Gan here? Means Raghunath Das Goswami, by extension, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. That's how we have Chaitanya Charitamritam. And Raghu Ganai, Ashwaditam Shevitam. And their service, they're relishing this, what's being extended by Rupa and Sanat, etc. And what's the outcome? It's becoming enhanced. Here, rather than going off or becoming something less, in a sense, it's becoming something more by their relish. More relishable, more tasteful. Like we see when Kaviraj Goswami will quote Rupa Goswami and Chaitanya Charitamritam, you see this verse and it's so beautiful. And then it'll be followed by a verse and go, wow, these are similar. But this is, and then he doesn't say anything. But if you look and see that verse, it says, Govinda Lilamritam. Who's the author of the Govinda Lilamritam? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So he is writing a verse that's like Rupa, but it's like, could it be sweeter or have its own beauty, intrinsic beauty? Like when Guru Maharaj writes something and Babaji Maharaj is saying, oh, it's like Rupa Goswami. Like that. Raghu Gana Ashwaditam Seritam. Then Jiva Adye Abhirakshitam. Jiva Adye, means Jiva, etc. When Jiva Goswami, Baladev Vidyabhusham, what are they doing? Like Guru Maharaj's name, Rakkak, means protector. I suggested guardian of devotion. He approved, Gurudev approved. So that rendering. Guardian of devotion. They're guarding, protecting this from its, those who would challenge its legitimacy, who would mutilate or modify this and counterfeit, imitate, all of these things. Jiva Goswami, Baladev, they're preventing that. Right? That is their service, to guard this very carefully. Right? Jiva Deva, then Sukha, Shiva, Brahma, Uddhava. They're all aspiring for a drop of this divine substance. So see how Guru Maharaj is building. From Mahaprabhu came down with this, Swarup Damodar only knows everything. Then Sanatan's worshipping that, Rupa's serving and extending to others. Raghunath, Krishna, they're tasting that divine substance. Jiva, Baladev protecting. This is what Saraswati Thakur saw written beforehand. Then what did it say? And Brahma, Shiva, Sukha, they're all aspiring for a drop of that. So then what is it? The next line, Sri Radha Padasevanamritamaho. The service, the nectarine service of the holy lotus feet of Srimati Radharani is saying, Aho, means, oh, Bhaktivinod Thakur, this is your gift to the world? What Mahaprabhu brought down, Srup Damodar knows, Sanatan worships, Rupa distributes, Raghunath pays, Krishnadas extends, Jiva Baladev protect, Brahma, Shuka, Shiva, Narada, they aspire for a drop. Bhaktivinod Thakur, you're giving this to the world? Oh my God. Unbelievable. You mean, this is what Krishna consciousness is. That's why Saraswati said, who wrote this? This is too perfect. This is it. This right here. So that, such high praise came from Srila Saraswati Thakur and praise of Srila Guru Maharaj. And we can only hope on this Tirobhav of Srila Bhaktivinod Thakur that these wonderful things, by the grace of our Guru Varga, have been extended to us. And we just know that, tomorrow is the Gundicha Marjan. And we know on that day, like Mahaprabhu and the devotees, they cleanse the place to make it fit for the Lord to come and be there. So it has a literal and a metaphoric sense. And he's saying, and it's also parallels cleansing one's heart. Like Guru Maharaj say, if you have polluted desires in your heart, bhukti, mukti, siddhi, he's saying, how can you invite the supremely dignified lady, Bhakti Devi, to sit next to those witches? You can't do that. Think, this beautiful, dignified lady, and then these, you can't. And so you have to remove them. So when Mahaprabhu and they're cleaning, they clean one level, one time, and then they go back and clean the second time, the finer things that weren't so obvious the first time around. And it's meaningful to the devotees. And we're told Mahaprabhu would see how much someone collected and tell the others to follow that. So it's sort of become a tradition in all the temples that on that day, tomorrow, to clean the temples. And we know here there's really a pretty extensive cleanup that takes place every year. So that's the Gundicha Marjan, and Gundicha, the representation of Vrindavan, they're getting it ready for Lord Jagannath, who's on his Rath Yatra, his journey, to go there. And then the next day will be Sri Rath Yatra. And fortunately, they broadcast this on the different television stations, on Indian TV. But YouTube, it's all on YouTube. And it starts around 8 o'clock in the morning. And the so-called Pandu Vijay, which means where Jagannath comes out, being rocked back and forth on the cotton pads by the servitors to take his seat on the chariot, that takes around 5 hours. It's not like they just come out and get on the chariot. It takes 5 hours and it's really delightful. And he come, and then Balaram, Subhadra, the Sudarshan, and they explain all the chariots, why they are the colors they are, the different deities adorning them, and the presence of different devatas. They explain every last detail about that. And this goes on for around 8 hours. And by around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the chariots start moving. and anyway, it's truly wonderful. And we watch this, listen to this every year. Gurudev, when we're in Puri with him, heard on the radio, but later in Calcutta, also they'd begun broadcasting this on, and we were watching there with His Divine Grace. So I think this concludes this year's Jagannath Puri Dham online parikrama. Madhusudan Maharaj would like to say a few concluding words, blessings.
Maharaj, I can simply say, it's sad it's come to an end, but it's going to continue with the spirit of the parikrama, which is the Gundicha Marjanam, which everywhere, including here, all the devotees around the world, they participate in. And really, it does feel sad it's come to an end. But this is the nature of the parikrama. As we build up preparation for the parikrama, devotees come, devotees arrive. But the parikrama, it's not over because, of course, it does culminate in the actual Ratha Yatra. But digitally, we can all participate in that by our own individual connections around the world. And we can participate live, which Maharaj also pointing out. This is also very mystic. Only yogis could possibly do such a thing. Now, Mahaprabhu, the greatest yogis, extended that potency, that possibility to us all, essentially. So let us use this technology for Mahaprabhu, for his service, for Guru and Gauranga. So Maharaj,
Jai.
very grateful, Maharaj, for your...
Jagannath Rath Yatra ki jai. Jai. Hari Harai Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo. Hari Harai Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namo. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namo. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Hey Jai Go Jai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaha hoite vignanas apista puran. Hey Jai Go Jai Jar Mui Tarodas. Tangsavara Padarinu Mora Pansagras. Andera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. Janame More Abhilas. Hey Jai Go Jai Jabe Braje Koilovas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash. Anande Voro Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayaman. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Gauriyas. Hari nam-sankirtan kohe narottamadas. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaura Hari Bo. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaura Hari Bo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivraja Kacharya Sutera Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Gadadhar Pandit Tirobab Mahamahota Batiti Ki Jai. Shri Bhaktivinod Thakur Tirobab Mahamahota Batiti Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Govinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Purushottam Kshetra Ki Jai. Jagannath Subhadra Balabhadra Ki Jai. Jagannath Shami Nayana Patagami Baba Tame Shri Jagannath Rath Yatra Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vishva Varenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mata Charja Brinda Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bimala Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai. Sannyasi Brinda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Maheshwari Deity Ki Jai. Shri Sandeep Krishna Prabhu Ki Jai. Seva Brinda Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura-prem.
Jai Shri Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura-prem. Hari Hari.
Jai, the tomb there, Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj and the Vila Govinda Bhakta Vrinda. Ki Jai. The tongues Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. Dandavat. Pranari Sri Deity doing the Spanish translation. Dandavat. Dibya Shakti Deity. Dandavat. Sri Lekha Deity. Dandavat. Rupa Vilas Prabhu in the Philippines. Dandavat. Sri Hari Prabhu in Brazil. Dandavat. Sri Bhakti Sevan Rishikesh Maharaj with Yashodanandan Prabhu and Abhazia. Dandavat. Anjali Didi and Kiselni. Dandavat. Hare Krishna. All your gifts received and distributed to the Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu and Vrindavan. Dandavat. Tarun and Moscow. Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Rasananda and Sochi. Dandavat. Vrinda Devi Dasi and Nizhny Novgorod. Dandavat. Vila Shakti Didi. Dandavat. Nityananda Ram Prabhu in Colombia. Dandavat. Nalina Nayana and Ram Sundar Prabhu in China. Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Jai Ram Sundar. Hare Krishna. Jamuna's mother Elena in Moscow. Oh, he's showing some pictures. Hey. Udaran Prabhu, Dandavat. Jai Sul Bhakti Ashray Dandi Maharaj, Dandavat. Gokula Tarani Didi, Dandavat. Dhananjay and Chaitanya Mohi and Roma, Dandavat. Vrindavaneshwari Didi, Dandavat. Ajita Krishna Prabhu and Kiselni, Dandavat. Anandita Didi, Dandavat. Madhavi Lata Didi, Dandavat. Lakshmi Priya Didi in Ukraine, Dandavat. Ram Sundar Prabhu, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. This, I don't know if that is. Subhashini Didi in Ireland, Dandavat. Kalindi Priya, Hare Krishna. In Chiang Mai, Dandavat. Abhiram Prabhu, Dandavat. Seva Rupa Didi and Kalyani in South Africa, Dandavat. Topananandini in Mexico, Dandavat. Says Julian. Jayananda Prabhu, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. He's in the Ananda Vardhan, Jayananda country. Dharani Sundari Didi, Dandavat. Priyanana Didi and Lakta, Dandavat. Lila Sundar Prabhu, Dandavat. Krishna Mohini Didi, Dandavat. Bhagavan Prabhu, Dandavat. Purushottam Prabhu in Salt Lake, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Is that everyone? Oh, Prafula Krishna Prabhu, oh, Pavel Brun Prabhu in Moscow, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Is that everyone? Oh, Darjalila Didi, Dandavat. Indumukhi in China with Mitravinda, Dandavat. Larry William in Govindaland, Dandavat. Achutananda in Yaroslav, Dandavat. Another Kalindi Priya, Ukraine, Dandavat. Nityananda Das doing the Russian translation here. Nadia Priya in Ukraine, Dandavat. Julie from Kazakhstan, Dandavat. Well, that's interesting. Ajitasha Didi, Dandavat. Cosmos TV, Dandavat. Shamala, Dandavat. Lalita, Dandavat. Tungarasa Dasi, Dandavat. Dhananjay Prabhu in Russia, Dandavat. Manmohan Prabhu, Dandavat. Paramananda Prabhu, Dandavat. Sulakshana is doing the Chinese translation here. Hare Krishna. Is that everyone? And Chandrakanti Didi in China, Dandavat. All right. Vansakalpa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Jagannath Rath Yatra Ki Jai, Jagannath Puridam Ki Jai, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura-prem. Pardon me?
That's right. No, it's not.
Who?
Narendra Prabhu, Italy.
Hare Krishna. Govinda?
Munindra.
Oh, Munindra. Munindra Mohan in Italy. Yeah, Sambila Govinda. Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Dandavat. Show all the devotees. Huh?